All right, so let's say you're trying to put an E46 M3 rear differential in a non-M E46. All right, here's what's gonna end up happening. All right, so let's get past the subframe stuff, because if you're not that far, you're probably not gonna do this swap. But let's take a look what we got here. So we have an M3 differential, a ZHP, technically non-M differential. All right, so when it came to the drive shaft, I thought you could just use the ZF6 drive shaft. But if you look at the flange from the differential on the M3, it's different. It's got this like more narrow cone shape, and on the non-M 6-speeds, it's got this really wide, like rounder shape than this one, right? All right, so I looked up, and I guess you need an E46 M3 drive shaft to bolt up to this. Now, everybody online is saying that 100% it will bolt directly to your ZF6 speed transmission. It will not bolt to a ZF5 speed transmission, because the transmission length is shorter, so the drive shaft is longer and will not bolt directly. You cannot use an M3 drive shaft with a ZF5. You can't use it with any 5-speed transmission. You can only use it with the ZF6 manual transmission, okay? So that took a while for me to figure out. Once I figured that out, I was doing measurements and asking people online. Hey, I looked it up and it said the M3 drive shaft is shorter. I even had the guy that I bought it off of measure it, and I measured my drive shaft, all right? This one's a ZF, this one's M3, right? If you look at them, they're just about lined up with the bearing here. And the M3 drive shaft comes a little short. So I spent 2 days stressing and doing as much research as I could to try to figure out if you need to make a custom drive shaft, or if there was a different way, or if there's some way you could like Frankenstein them. It turned out the whole time all that stress is for nothing, because if you look, I got them lined up by the flange. The M3 drive shaft is slightly shorter, but the differential is slightly longer and slightly bigger, meaning that that 1.5 inches that this drive shaft is missing on the M3 is actually made up for on the differential. All right, so I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. No information on YouTube about this, so hopefully this helps someone, because fuck, I had to figure it out all on my own. So if you're to the point where you're actually getting everything, make sure that when you do pick up an M3 rear subframe, you get a drive shaft as well. It does not matter if it's SMG or manual that the car comes from, it will use the same drive shaft. So just make sure that you get the M3 drive shaft. And you'll know the difference because it has this like weird flat looking piece, and it's got all the goo out. And if it doesn't have that and it looks like this, it looks like an axle, it is not the right one. And if it's a 4-bolt flange, completely wrong stuff. Don't even look at it. That is for completely different transmission. All right, so you got to make sure that it looks like this. Make sure that the U joint, whatever you want to call it, is behind the bearing, not on the transmission side. Because if you look at the ZF1, it's on the transmission side before the bearing, and then after the bearing it's straight. But on the M3 one, it goes transmission, bearing, U joint, straight back. All right, so there's your differences between ZF 6-speed manual transmission drive shaft and differential versus a GetTrag 420G 6-speed manual transmission for an E46 M3 and differential. All right, so I hope you guys are putting LSDs in your cars and stop welding them. All right, just buy once, cry once, do the hard stuff now, get the M3 axles. You'll never break shit ever again. All right, do it the right way.